All right, what's up, YouTube? This Wolf King, watch Wolf King's vids. All right, we got True Empiricism. He's arguing against Matt Dillahunty and a number of other atheists that the United States isn't a secular nation. He's got a couple of videos up featuring himself. So let's just screen share and we'll do an analysis. Let's watch. There we go.
The ostracizing that takes place doesn't happen with every religious identity equally. Not everyone fears what their family's going to say. But it's sufficient enough that it impacts whether or not an atheist is likely to get elected to office, whether or not secular views are taken seriously in legislation, despite the fact that in the United States, we have in our Constitution, in the law, a secular system, perhaps the first potentially glorious secular government, where you are free to hold your religious views, you are free to practice your religious views, and the only imposition from the government on your religious actions is when they come in conflict with other people's rights.
Well, for the sake of brevity, I won't be getting into any specific information in this video proving 100%
Wow, that's convenient.
that Matt Dillahunty is historically incorrect on the things that he had said here. Actually, later on in the video that I'm responding to right now, The Thinking Atheist gets into a bit more detail, so there'll be a part 2 to this video later on. Instead, what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to just give Matt his claim to prove that it still doesn't work.
We have,
Well, we'll see.
in our Constitution, in the law, a secular system, perhaps the first potentially glorious secular government.
You see, secular means something specific, denoting to attitudes, activities, or other things that have no religious or spiritual basis. Now again, it is 100% dead wrong, historically speaking, that Christianity didn't have any influence in the development of our government. But let's assume, for the sake of argument, that that is true. The one document out of all legal and non-legal binding documents that can be traced to explain specifically what the philosophy was which produced this country was the Declaration of Independence, which actually Article 7 of the Constitution references. And here's what it says. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Okay, so it never ceases to amaze me when theocrats sort of roll this point out that Declaration of Independence mentions God and other religious language. I mean, it's funny. The Declaration of Independence isn't a legal document, right? It has no legal power whatsoever. It was just a declaration to Great Britain that the United States had grievances against it and that they were going to be separate. They were going to be a separate nation. And, you know, as far as securing their rights, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, right? Deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. You know, that's right down there. So, I mean, it's funny. The Declaration of Independence actually came before the establishment of our government, which is the constitutional. It's the constitutional law. That's sort of the law of the land in the United States. So, and more importantly, you could read this all you want, like throughout the entire document. It actually has no mentions of Christianity. In fact, it was more closer to deism. That's what most of the that's the view that most of the founding fathers took. So it's kind of a fail there. And as far as the Constitution goes, it makes it very clear that it is a godless document. Apparently he's never read the Establishment Clause.
And so at our roots, in the very document in which we declared independence, you notice that the founders made it very, very clear. In fact, it actually sounded a lot like they were arguing for an objective moral lawgiver there now, didn't it? But in this video, we're not going to try to argue.
False. Really?
Argue for any specific religion. Remember, we are trying to go with Matt Delahanty's claim to give him the handicap. That is, that America.
I mean, well, that's not true. Your earlier claim was that Christianity had some kind of influence in our government, so kind of contradicting yourself there.
Is a secular society. Secular is not synonymous with godless. And you atheists are the ones who are always crying that atheism is just a rejection of God claims. At our roots, in the actual documents in which our founders declared ourselves an independent nation, we see the reasoning of a God-based society, which is why I can welcome the description of us being a secular society. Because secular, in the context of American history, has absolutely no connection at all whatsoever with a godless society. By being
such a fail, such a fail. So you could go back and listen to what Matt said verbatim. In none of his description did he mention that secularism is equated with atheism in any way. And in fact, having a secular government offers a neutral position, which gives groups both religious and non-religious an equal footing and an equal voice. I mean, that's the whole point of having separation of church and state. That's not saying that the system is atheistic, but that it's neutral so that everyone could be able to believe in whatever they want, basically through the basis of reason. So you could have freedom of religion, and that basically means freedom from religion. So I mean, that's simple. That's not complex at all.
Charitable and ignoring all Christian references by the founding fathers, the most reasonable, charitable thing that we can say is by secular, the founding fathers could have meant a general God, not anchored to any specific religion.
Except that's not what the Constitution states. This is really awkward. I mean, clearly someone hasn't done their research.
Now again, this conclusion I don't agree with. You'll have to wait for part 2 to see why. But this is just to show that Matt's description of America being a secular nation is just a pathetic attempt to slap an atheism sticker on a God-based society that has become the most successful, powerful nation in recorded history.
Okay, so again, secularism does not equate with atheism. Okay, atheism is a lack of belief in the God or gods, and secularism, all that means is that it is without religious or spiritual attitudes, and that's exactly what the United States government is. It's not it's not based on any particular religion. You know, as far as the laws are concerned, it's not based on any kind of religious text. It's based on like the Constitution and the amendments that we have in place of it. So he tried to argue these points on Talk Heathen, and it didn't go well for him. So let's just screen share that. Okay. Okay. There we go. All right.
Did you guys say that the Bible shouldn't be in the classroom unless secular is attached to it, or you just got it? No, maybe different take on separation of church and state other than the Constitution. Okay. Do you agree with Sharia law? No, I don't. Okay. Do you think that God's law, Christian law, should be the law of the United States? I believe that it has been since the founding of this country. Okay, please tell me how that is different from Sharia. I'm not talking about Sharia law. I'm talking about historical fact. I don't care. I'm determining whether or not you understand that what you're promoting is the same basis that people would promote Sharia law. But you should care because that's not what the topic was that I came in here with. So I'm talking about Sharia law. Yeah, I'm talking about fairness and equity here. I already said that. So all I'm trying to say when I came in is talking about separation of church and state is in the Declaration of Independence. It says that we hold these truths to be self-evident. Follow me for just a second. You'll see it guide back. I'm on this conversation, but you need to follow here. Mm-hmm.
please.
Okay.
How is your advocating the government taking on or having always been Christian? How is that different from advocating Sharia?
Well, I've studied the Quran cover to cover, back to back, and obviously it's a completely different system than a Christian system.
Who cares?
So it would be incompatible with the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence.
Well, here's the problem, though. The Establishment Clause of the Constitution says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
Thank you. Headshot.
So when you try sneaking in the Bible into the school systems as anything other than an English book or
Look at this guy. He's just tired of listening to this to True Talk.
world religion class, then you are in fact using public schools to promote a religion. Also, we have the Treaty of Tripoli, which the opponents to that treaty even said that this is wrong because it clearly establishes us legally as not a Christian nation.
Well, may I respond to that points by points? Can I have a response to each?
Yeah, so the whole point is he just fell down like a flight of stairs and he just didn't know what to do. I mean, the fact of the matter is, like you can't really argue against those points. You're trying to argue that the government is Christian on some basis, and it's not. And in fact, this idea doesn't even stem from early American history. In fact, it actually comes from the early 1950s, when we were trying to distinguish ourselves from communist Russia. We sort of Christianized American culture. We put in God would trust on the money. We should have added religious monuments. We basically made ourselves seem more Christian in terms of the culture. But as far as the United States government is concerned, we haven't always been a secular nation, a constitutionally secular nation. So you can be whatever religion you want. You can be Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist. You could be atheist, whatever. But as far as the laws that are established on the soil, it's completely non-religious. I mean that's not some controversial thing, and it's ironic given that fact because not only because Russia is Christian, more Christian than we are, and we're in fact more secular than ever in terms of the population. At least among the younger generation with the millennials. But the fact of the matter is, Ronnie made a serious error here, and he thinks that he's making decent points against these guys. I mean, I welcome him to make a second video and actually try to get and go more quote in depth unquote with regard to these statements. But as far as the historical texts are concerned and the rest of the evidence, it really doesn't help his case at all. But it is what it is. The facts are the facts, and honestly, this is secular America. And if we can't accept that, then tough titty. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, you're just incorrect on that. But anyway, that's all I gotta say. That's all I got. This has been Wolf King. Peace out. If you like this video, you know what to do. Stop right there and know, and peace out, El Satan. I just might do a second response to his part 2 video if it's actually substantive, but we'll have to wait and see about that. So you guys take care, stay safe, and stay healthy. All right.